Today I want to cover one of the most common questions that I get asked in the comment sections, and people are always asking me, Michael, should I buy now or wait for the housing crash? And my answer is going to change depending on your situation. So I want to start off the video today kind of diving into a couple different scenarios of what makes the most sense depending on who you are and what your scenario is. And just remember, guys, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. This is just my opinion on what I would do if I were you. But ultimately, you need to use your best judgment to make the right decision for you, okay? So, but I think about this every day, especially making these type of videos and paying attention to the current state of the housing market. So it's inevitable that I'm going to have to come up with these type of scenarios for myself, even of when I would be comfortable to buy. So let's get into it. Now, the first scenario I would say is if you already have really good credit and you can get the best rate possible, meaning like you have an 800 plus credit score and you can qualify for the best possible rate that you can get today, and you have the extra money to buy down your rate even further, okay? And you know for sure you're going to be holding whatever piece of property you're looking at long term, then I would say it's still okay to buy right now. And the only reason I say that is because if you're getting a much lower rate because you have good credit and you're buying down your rate, then there's a good chance that you're going to still have a pretty decent payment. And depending on where you live, home prices are even dropping in some cases. So right now could actually be a good opportunity. However, I don't think it's the best time ever to buy. Those days are over. That was probably pre-2020, realistically. So, but do I think there's more opportunity coming in the future? Yes, but not everybody has the ability to wait for one reason or another. I don't want to dive into all the reasons of why you might need to buy right now, but if that's your situation, then I think it would be okay. And to add to that, a bonus criteria I would have for somebody in this situation is this. You meet all the criteria we just talked about, and on top of that, the property you're looking at, you're going to be living in, but you could rent it for a profit in the future if you change your mind, then that's an even extra added bonus that I would say, yes, it would be okay to buy right now still. Not that it's the best time ever, but it's okay. Got a whole brand new house coming up over here. And by the way, this is the first video I've done for you guys like this one in South Beach. There's actually this whole little neighborhood here in South Beach, right next to Flamingo Park over there. And they actually have single family homes. And I've never actually walked through here before, only driven past. So I figured it'd be an interesting place to shoot today's video. We got a little workout area over there, basketball courts, all kinds of stuff. Looks like we got one for sale here. I don't know if it's this place or the one next door. The sign's kind of right here on the corner. Probably this one. But this is a very interesting little area because it's pretty much one of the only spots in all of South Beach where you can actually buy a single family home. There are a couple of other little places around here too. None other like with the size of concentration of houses in this area. So it's a pretty neat little secret of South Beach that some people probably aren't even aware of. Now, another person who I think could be okay to buy right now is somebody that has very healthy finances and you live in a very expensive area like I do, Miami, for example, or like say, you know, I don't know, Los Angeles, somewhere like that, where housing prices are astronomical, but rent prices are even more astronomical. And it's still cheaper, even with this crazy housing market that we're in, to buy than it is to rent. So I think if you are somebody in that situation, then it could still make sense to buy, even though it's not the best time, because ultimately then at least you're still building equity and paying off your mortgage, although you could be losing equity temporarily as prices start to decline, because if you're in one of these expensive markets, then there's a good chance that prices could be coming down even more drastically than in other areas, say like, you know, the Midwest, where prices haven't gone up 20-30%. And this is my own personal experience, guys. I actually ended up doing this because last year I saw the trend here in Miami where rent prices were literally shooting through the roof, and our lease was set to expire pretty soon. And I figured, you know what, if we want to stay here, then we need to do everything that we can to get the best deal on a place for sale. And the right deal at the right time literally came up, and we were still able to get a low rate. So all the stars kind of aligned, and we were able to get the deal that made sense for us. But I'm not saying that just because it's cheaper to buy than it is to rent, that you should just buy anything. You should still be particular. You should still be offering less than full price, because now things are shifting out there and you have more bargaining power. So if you have some time to kill on your lease, another 4 to 6 months, let's say, then don't be desperate. You know, be out there looking, be out there making offers, find the right property. But yes, you can still buy if it makes sense that, you know, you're going to be paying more in rent than to own, because at that point it just makes no sense to rent. If you ask me, guys, there's like no value in renting if you're not saving any money, because to me that's really the only upside besides having the flexibility to just up and leave. Is if you're saving a ton of money like I was, then sure, go ahead and rent for a little bit and wait this out. But if you're in a place where it costs a lot more to rent, or even $200 or $300 more a month to rent, maybe you should be looking at buying. But just keep in mind, like we've talked about in the past, that once you buy a home, there's a lot of other expenses that come with it, especially when it comes to maintenance and insurance and things like that. So be prepared for extra expenses that you didn't have when you were renting, to make sure that it's actually going to be cheaper, because you might be surprised. Now, who should not be buying right now? Anybody who still has FOMO, okay guys? If you're one of these people out there that says, well, interest rates are going to keep going up and prices are still high, so it's going to cost me even more in the future to buy, that's the wrong reason to buy, guys. You're not the right person to be buying right now, because you're buying your biggest purchase in your entire life essentially out of fear. Out of fear that there's never going to be another opportunity, out of fear that prices won't come down, because if interest rates keep going up, guys, prices will come down. It's just the way it's going to go, because no one's going to be paying exorbitant home prices when interest rates are 8% at the end of this year, which we're looking at a potential for, guys. We're going to cover this a little bit later in the video, but the Fed's been raising rates since the beginning of the year, and guess what? Inflation has been going up since the beginning of the year, not going down. So even with these interest rate hikes, inflation is actually getting worse, not better. So that's something to keep in mind. And they have said numerous times that their goal is to hit the 2% inflation rate, and their official number is 9.1%, which could come out in the next couple of weeks being actually even higher. So we'll see. So keep in mind that these guys, their number one goal is to lower inflation, and so rates are going to continue to go up. And if rates continue to go up, home prices will come down. And if you're buying out of fear that that scenario is not going to play out, then I don't think you should be buying right now. Because all you need to do is look at people who overpaid for real estate in the past year or so, and you got listings out there, you can find them online yourself. You can see listings that were bought for, like, say $650,000 a year ago, and people tried to flip them for more money, for example, and now those same listings have been sitting on the market for literally months on end with price cuts, and you know, the new asking price is like $570 and they still can't sell it. So these guys are taking a bath and losing a ton of money, and that could end up being you if you're purchasing out of fear. So you don't need to look any further than that type of example of why you shouldn't be buying if you're afraid right now. And I also don't think you should be buying if you're an investor or you're looking for a second home and there's no urgency, right? You don't have that increased rent burning underneath you to try and get you into a home, or you don't need to move for a family or work situation or whatever. You're comfortable, and you know, you are a real estate investor, or you're thinking about getting into real estate investing, or say you've just been having your eye on that perfect vacation home, and you know, you think that maybe you just want to do it now because life's too short. Well, I think in those cases, you should definitely wait it out because there's going to be more opportunity coming, I believe, and it's not going to hurt to wait 6 more months or at least till the end of the year and see what the state of affairs is by then, because I think the housing market is going to continue to change much faster than we anticipated as the year goes on, as the Fed keeps raising rates and inflation keeps going up. So we need to keep an eye on that. That's like one of the most important things, is what's happening with rates, what's happening with inflation. And as long as this is a problem, it's going to be difficult, guys. So keep this in mind and just be patient if you don't have an urgency to buy right now. And by the way, guys, today is Monday, August 8th as I'm shooting this video, and it is this YouTube channel's 3rd birthday. 3 years ago today, I posted the very first video on this channel, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my whole life, and I just wanted to plug that real quick because I'm so happy I did it. And I know so many of you out there who watch and support this channel. I love you. Thank you so much for being here and watching these videos and helping this channel grow. It means the world to me, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you. It's been 3 years and it feels amazing. So I'm looking forward to the next 3 years, guys. Now, if you need even more reasons to not buy right now, just look at the most recent survey from Fannie Mae about homeowner and home buyer sentiment. You know, people aren't feeling good right now about the housing market, guys. Here's what people are saying from this recent survey. People have anxiety over higher mortgage rates and a softening market, okay? And about 76% of the people surveyed think it's a bad time to buy a house right now, and only 17% said it's a good time to buy. So I would imagine the 17% who say it's a good time probably either think that things are going to continue to go up forever, which they don't. It never works like that. Or you're in one of these uncommon scenarios where it actually might make sense for you to buy because of one of the situations we talked about earlier. Potential buyers are also worried about the direction of the economy. Roughly 1/5 of the respondents said they're worried about losing their job in the next 12 months. So even though employment is still technically strong out there, or at least that's what we're being told, people are starting to get worried about losing their job, guys, because obviously there has been a big round of layoffs in different industries as of recently. So people are starting to get concerned about this, and for good reason. It even says that sellers are worried too, because only 67% of sellers think it's a good time to sell right now. Now, I think that's still pretty healthy. That's almost 70% of people think it's a good time to sell. But you still have a good 33% in there that think it's not. And about 30% of the people surveyed think that home prices are going to go down. So that's definitely not the majority. That means 70% think that prices are going to continue to go up. So we'll see. And like we said before many times, it depends on your market. It depends on where you live. What's happening here in Miami could be different than Minneapolis. What's happening in Minneapolis is going to be different than what's happening in New York City. So let's recognize that. We got this brand new development over here. This wasn't even here a couple years ago. This was just empty land. They're definitely taking up every square inch of South Beach they can to build premium properties here these days. Now, one alarming trend that's been happening in the housing market recently is more homeowners are opting to take home equity lines of credit now that cash out refinances don't really make any sense anymore, because, you know, the interest rates have gotten too high to basically take on a new mortgage, and they think that doesn't make any sense. So the logic behind this mentality is, I'm going to take a home equity line of credit at around 8.5% interest, but it's a much lower loan amount, and people are opting to do that instead. And this is a pretty risky time to be doing that, guys, because home equity lines of credit fluctuate just like an adjustable rate mortgage. So let's talk about this for a minute. So first thing to keep in mind, the Heloc rates fluctuate with the prime rate, which is the rate that the Fed is continuing to increase. So as the Fed continues to do the rate hikes, we're going to see people pay more and more on their Heloc loans, okay? So that's the first thing to keep in mind. And one of the ways that a lot of these Heloc lenders will rope you in is to give you a promotional rate, say like 5% or 6% which seems a lot more appealing than the average 8.5% rate. And this is a trick, guys, because they get you in with this for like the first year or whatever, and then your rate is subject to change and go up. And why is this a problem? Well, for obvious reasons, because these rates can fluctuate, and people are now seeing their rates go from 5% to 10%, guys. So you're talking double the rate overnight. And you got to ask yourself, if you're going to be somebody taking one of these Heloc loans right now, can you afford double the payment that you're paying right now, or what they're offering you as a promo rate? Because if you can't, then you shouldn't be taking that loan, because this is how the next wave of people are going to get in trouble, especially as prices start coming down. People start, selling out of fear, and if the recession gets bad and people start losing their jobs, this could spell disaster for the people that have these type of loans, and they could easily be looking at a short sale or foreclosure situation. So you got to be very careful if you're somebody considering one of these Heloc loans right now. And I've also had people ask me, hey, should I just take one of these loans right now just to have extra cash ready for when the downturn comes? My answer to that is probably not, guys. I would say save the money instead the right way, because you're just taking too much of a gamble, and you're gambling your home's equity at a time when it could potentially drop. So I think that's not a good idea. The only time it might make sense to use this money is if you're going to make improvements to your home that make any kind of sense, not $100,000 bathroom, but logical improvements that the home actually needs. Or if you're going to use that money to make another investment that you found that you think is a great deal, but you just don't have the cash on hand, and the return from that investment will be enough to cover the Heloc payment. So those are the only situations I would be considering that type of loan right now, because right now this lending environment is not favoring people that have any type of adjustable rate loan. So this is one of the biggest risks you can take right now, and I don't think it's a good idea, because you have to keep in mind that the lender from your Heloc loan can foreclose on your property if you stop paying. So just like if you stop paying your mortgage, you can lose your home by doing one of these loans. So it's extremely risky. This is much riskier than going into credit card debt or having a car repossessed. So just keep that in mind. We got another one for sale here. Real estate scams are on the rise. I read about a couple of different real estate scams today. One of them I've never heard of before. There was this real estate agent couple up in Virginia that were able to get $300,000 in fake commissions, guys. And basically how they did this is because there are companies out there now that will essentially advance you real estate commissions if you can provide, a solid contract showing that, this is gonna be the closing date, et cetera, et cetera. And these guys were forging documents left and right, crossing out the names of the other agents on the contract, making it all their names so they can get double commissions. These guys were faking the names of buyers and sellers. They were faking property addresses, putting homes on these contracts that weren't even actually for sale. And they got away with it for several years, actually. They did this from 2016 through 2019, and they're just now being sentenced to prison, but only for like 15 months. So still kind of a slap on the wrist, a little over a year in jail is not that big of a deal for stealing 300 grand. And apparently they got to pay about $146,000 in restitution, which is only about half of what they stole. So I wonder if they get to keep the other half. So that's the first scam that's happening out there right now. And that doesn't really affect you as the buyer or the homeowner too much, unless maybe they use your property address in one of these scams, and maybe it could potentially affect you. But otherwise, this is just desperate real estate agents acting out and doing things they shouldn't be doing because they're in desperate need of money, okay? The next type of scam that's going on right now is people are getting offers in the mail for title protection, meaning that, well, you can sign up to our service and we'll make sure that nobody is stealing the title of your home. And essentially what this scam does is they're trying to get enough information from you where they can actually steal the title of your home. And this is how somebody can actually steal your property right out from underneath you. And basically how this works is they're catching people out of fear, because they're saying, oh, if you don't sign up for this service, then people can take out home equity lines of credit on your home without you even knowing about it, or transfer the title without you knowing about it. So send us all your information and we'll monitor this on your behalf. And then what they do is they forge basically closing documents and file it at your local tax collector's office, and they basically attempt to transfer the ownership of the property from your name over to theirs. And this is another scam that's literally happening right now. So anytime you get something in the mail, if you're a homeowner right now, that pertains to something like this, anything that sounds remotely funky, shred it, guys. Do not fall for this. And this can come in more ways than one. You might not get it in the mail. You might get a text message. You might get an email. Anything could be possible nowadays. There are so many elaborate scams happening out there that you need to be more careful than ever. And I want to just bring these things to your attention, because people are getting duped by these things. And if somebody essentially steals the title of your home, it can be very difficult to reverse that, not to mention the amount of legal fees and paperwork and headaches and court dates that might involve to try to reverse things. So the best thing is prevention rather than trying to deal with it later on. Allegedly, in July, there was more than 500,000 jobs created in the US. And of course, some people out there, especially our politicians, are saying, well, we're definitely not in a recession with the job market being this healthy. And so they're basically using that one figure to confirm that we're not in a recession. But everyone keeps forgetting that the Fed is going to continue to be even more aggressive on their rate hikes because of this, okay? When they see the job numbers going up, then that's a sign that the economy is still too strong to the Fed. And what are they gonna do? They're gonna do more rate hikes, guys, and probably more aggressive rate hikes in the future until all of this starts come crashing down, because that's their goal right now, is to ensure that it starts crashing down, or at least slows down to a crawl, because that's the only way inflation is gonna continue to get under control, as well as fixing supply chain issues and so on. The Fed's only tool is to raise interest rates. They have no control over the supply chain issues. So they're gonna continue to raise rates, guys. And as much as people think that this recent jobs report is good news, it's actually bad news, because it means that they are going to get more aggressive on the rate hikes. And ultimately, as interest rates go up and borrowing gets tougher, there's a higher likelihood that all these newly created jobs could go away tomorrow, because the economy starts to weaken too much. And this is all part of like the mirage that we're seeing right now that doesn't make any sense, right? Oh, we had 500,000 jobs, interest rates went down to 4.99%, the economy's still strong, stock market's going back up, so it's giving like the illusion that everything is going well, guys. But don't forget about inflation, because the Fed's not going to forget about it, because it is their number one goal to tame inflation. And until that's done, things are going to get worse before it gets better. So this just is a temporary thing that we're seeing, this temporary little boom before it gets even worse again. So that's what's happening. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. Check out my next video on the screen right over here, and I'll see you over in the next one.